In this video, you'll watch the recreation of my heart being broken as a gun with so much promise ultimately let me down and was darn near brilliant. We're looking at the Rock Island STK100. Are you ready? Stand by. Welcome to the Humble Marksman channel. I'm David and this is the Rock Island STK100. And no, this isn't clickbait. You clicked on a video where, yeah, it's kind of nearly brilliant. I've actually rewritten this review 3 times. Initially, it was hugely positive. Then I started looking closer at the gun. It became scathingly negative. Then I kind of sorted out the bugs and understood what the gun wanted to do and wanted to be, and then it's somewhere in between the two at this point. This could have been amazing. It's not, but it could have been. So to understand why I was so heartbroken about this gun, you kind of have to go back in time to when I was competing in IDPA in the early 2010s with my trusty Gen 4 Glock 34, and CZ was just starting to kind of penetrate the IDPA scene, crossing over from the US PSA side. And the whole time I was sitting there thinking like, wow, that's a high bore axis gun. What if we had a low bore axis gun that was made out of metal? Like what if there was just a metal framed Glock? And then nobody really did that for whatever reason. A couple folks tried, but didn't really have any widespread success with the metal framed Glock. Fast forward to now in Rock Island with the STK100 basically released an aluminum framed Glock, which is exciting on its face. And to my wonderful YouTube manual reviewer, this is what the gun looks like in my hand, and this is what it looks like on the manufacturer's website. This is not an endorsement of a brand or promoting the sale of regulated items. This is just a review for information and entertainment purposes. I purchased this gun for $519 shipped, and so this video is sponsored by my patrons over on Patreon. If you want more of this kind of content and want to see the post as this gun broke my heart in sort of real time, you can click on the links in the description to the Patreon posts that correlate with this gun and see what the fuss is about. So thank you to my patrons. So if you're subscribed to my channel and if you like reviews peppered with dad humor that sometimes is too dry and sarcastic to really be funny, then you would have seen this post that I put up on my YouTube community page. Then immediately the next day I walked it back with this post. So I'm going to revisit the story of how this gun broke my heart, but first let's talk about the promise of this gun and why I got so darn excited about the pistol. First and foremost, when you handle the gun, I mean, it feels pretty good. It feels on the surface like it is a well put together gun. It's pretty exciting. The balance of the gun, and this is really big for competition shooters, and I think the next wave people are going to get into is we had kind of this fad going on of really muzzle heavy guns. This gun's center of balance is about right here, which is darn near perfect for what you would want for a gun that makes it easy to swing around and very easy to carry, very easy to shoot. And when the gun comes back into battery from recoil, you don't get a lot of oscillation due to the super heavy front of the gun. So Rock Island, when you first look at it at first blush, this gun is amazing. I mean, the trigger guard, it looks almost like a 1911, but it fits in all the Glock holsters. It's got really aggressive grip panels, which seem like a good idea. It's got a blacked out target rear sight with a white front, which is awesome. The rear sight comes off and it's got an optics cut, which is awesome. And they tuned up the ergonomics of the gun so it presents like a 1911. So my index with this gun, and I compete with 2011s, was immediately the same as my competition guns, which was exciting to me. I was like, man, this thing's awesome. I might use this gun as like my beater competition gun when I shoot IDPA indoor matches just for fun or whatever. Then I started looking at the gun a lot closer and realized that while all this sounds great on paper, it was like a nailed it sort of sense of the gun. And we'll kind of get into why that is. So first and foremost about how they nailed it with this gun is they got an amazing set of sights on the gun and they've got this awesome barrel on the gun. It's got a 1 in 16 twist. Why is that significant? If you've been following guns for a while, you remember the first generation M&Ps were fabled for having absolutely terrible accuracy. What was the twist rate on their barrels?
Allegedly, that's ignorant.
1 in 18. When Smith & Wesson rebooted their M&P with the M2.0, what was the twist rate on their barrels and they were starting to get amazing accuracy? 1 in 10. What is the twist rate on a Glock's 9mm barrel? 1 in 10 roughly. What is the twist rate on CZ? 1 in 10. So Rock Island chose to do 1 in 16. And what twist means is how many inches it takes to complete one revolution of the rifling down the barrel. So it takes 16 inches of barrel for this to have one revolution, which is fine if you're shooting really high velocity projectiles. It stabilizes high velocity projectiles quite well. Translated into 9mm terms, it basically only shoots 115s particularly accurately. I tested this with 9 different loads and 4 of those being different reloads. And why is that significant? Well, if this is going to ever spend time as a competition gun, it needs to be able to shoot reloads well. So I had 2 different 124 grain loads. A buddy had a 124 grain load and another buddy had a 147 grain load. One of my 124 grain loads looked like I was patterning buckshot on the target from 15 yards. I mean, it was all over the place. There were keyhole and tumbling. Probably 70% of the projectiles tumbled. Firepower United from Instagram or here on YouTube met me at the range and he shot his 124 grain loads and he had 50% of his rounds tumble.
Am I getting some tumbles?
Looks like you're getting keyholes, yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't like this ammo. It's a soft shooting gun, it's just really slippery.
Yeah, it's very slippery. It needs grip, for sure. Yeah.
Everything else, from what I can tell,
The
is fine.
recoil is awesome on it.
I had one of my 124 grain competition loads actually stabilize okay out of the gun, but the accuracy sort of opened up the group a little bit more than the 115s we tried shooting. So I shot a couple different hollow points to test those. I tried the Hornady cheap brass JHPs, and I tried some Federal 124 grain Hydra-Shocks, and the 115s shot beautifully, as you can imagine, from a 1/16 barrel, and the Federal shot fine as well, although the grouping wasn't quite as good. It was acceptable, but not quite as good. Well, that's no big deal with the barrel. Since it's a Glock clone, you can just take like a Gen 3 or Gen 4 barrel and drop it in and just use that, right? Wrong. I tried to swap out my Gen 4 17 barrel into this gun to see if it would work and I could stabilize all of the different ammunitions, maybe improve accuracy with heavier for caliber loads, and it doesn't fit. The slide wouldn't go back on the frame and lock in with an OEM barrel. Now, I don't have any aftermarket barrels to try that, but I can tell you that it's not a direct swap. Whatever Rock Island has done isn't quite to whatever the Glock spec is. So until they release a 1-in-10 barrel, you're stuck with a 1/16 barrel, which nailed it. And the problem with that is these awesome sights that I got so excited about, which are not adjustable, by the way, hit low. So my remedies are, since the rear sight is basically affixed to the optics plate, is I have to get a shorter front sight to raise the point of impact, which isn't a big deal because like Dawson Precision makes sights that do this, and I bench rested this at 25 yards and found it was hitting about 3 to 4 inches low with my 124 grain load. The 115s hit even lower. So the iron sights are off, which leads us to the optics. Now, if you look on the Rock Island website and you look for what optic goes on the STK100, it's not there. As of the time of recording this video, it's not on the website which optic fits this cut. If you read the manual that comes with the gun, it doesn't tell you what optic footprint fits this cut. The only way I knew which optic fit this cut is I watched TFB TV's first video with John McClain from Rock Island, who said it is a Vortex cut.
So it also has a slide cut on the top that's already optics ready for the Vortex Venom red dot sight.
Now, for those of you who hang around optics know that a Vortex cut isn't really a cut. That means it's the doctor footprint which Vortex uses. The problem with that is it's not a doctor footprint. It is literally a Vortex cut. So I already had one optic on hand. I had a Creative XP that's like a cheap Amazon optic that I was going to try on the gun. But the optics pocket is cut too shallow, like front to back, so the optic could not seat in the gun. That's annoying. So I was like, well, I'm gonna buy this Hex Dragonfly because I've been wanting to try that out. Maybe I'll do a review on that. It doesn't fit the cut either. So I borrowed from a buddy a Vortex Venom and it barely fits on the cut. And they don't use recoil bosses. They just have the 2 posts that come up through the screws. And the Vortex Venom didn't even fit all the way down in the optic. I had to cinch it most of the way down and then screw it down with the screws provided. And at that point, it looks like it was custom fit to this gun. But when I took the optic off the gun to film this video, I had to pull on the optic as hard as I could to get just a tiny little sliver where I could take a knife and use a hammer to drive it between the slide and the optic body. So not the best optic cut, however, it's going to very securely hold on to your Vortex Venom. So if you're somebody who absolutely adores Vortex optics, this isn't going to be a big deal. But if you're somebody who maybe wanted to try some other optics other than Vortex, you're kind of SOL. So I'm okay with them providing a doctor footprint cut, but the way that they cut it so it only takes Vortex optics, again, they just kind of nailed it. Let's get down onto the frame and talk about what's going on with the frame, because the frame is a two-piece aluminum frame. The seam for the frame runs straight down the middle and the back of the gun. It's blended very well so you can barely see the darn thing. There are a couple screws on this side of the pistol that indicate that it's held together with screws, and that's well enough. But they've got this nice like bogey type texture for like a 1911 where it provides a lot of grip on the flats of your palms when you're gripping the gun. The problem with that is while it's nice to have traction on the side of the gun, that's not really where you need it. Where you need it is on the front strap and the back strap. And why do I say that? So if you go in your bathroom, get your hands wet, then pick up a bar of soap and squeeze it long way, see what happens. It's gonna just kind of pop out. And because there's basically no texture on the front strap or back strap of the gun, there's like no bite. And in the Texas sun, this was an issue where I was out shooting, my hands were getting sweaty, and the gun would get slippery, and in recoil, it starts to slide around in your palms. So since this is an aluminum frame, they could have very well cast in some checkering, almost like 20 LPI type checkering, something blunt that wouldn't really tear up people's hands and give something to cry about, like, you know, gun company aggressive. Just do some of that and it would have been absolutely brilliant. But as it is right now, they only provide traction on the sides of the grip panels, and that's not good enough. So again, they just kind of nailed it. And then the trigger, let's talk about the trigger. Then the rest of the controls, I mean, they're basically very Glock-like. The mag catch is a proprietary mag catch, so you cannot use mag catches. The magazines that they ship with, it's, I believe, a KCI mag, according to my buddy Graham Bates. It's got the STK logo on the base plate. It looks and feels almost like a real Glock mag. KCI doesn't have the best reputation in the aftermarket Glock mag segment, but it seemed to work well enough while I was shooting with it. The actual trigger itself is quite nice. It's weighted at about 5 pounds on this example, and if you look at the website, it says the trigger weighs between like 3 and 7 pounds, which is just an absolutely immense range for a trigger on a website, but it's not bad. Like, the trigger face is flat, the trigger safety goes absolutely flush with the trigger. It breaks it almost nearly vertical. It feels basically exactly like a Glock trigger. There's nothing really kind of special about it. It's not great, it's not bad, it's just kind of what you'd expect from a Glock trigger. As far as all the rest of the things that you would want for a Glock clone, I didn't test a bunch of aftermarket mags. I have it on good authority from my buddy Graham Bates that it works with P mags. It definitely works with the OEM mags that I was shooting with it, and it clearly works with the KCI mags that it came with. The holster fit on this, and I tried it in my Harry's Holsters concealment holster. The Singleton is my personal favorite concealed carry holster, and you can save 10% with the code The Humble Marksman at checkout. And I also tried it on my Ghost holsters that I have. I have the Ghost 5.2 level 3 retention holster, and I have the Ghost Civilian outside the waistband holster, and it fit in both of those holsters perfectly well. In the 5.2, it fit like it was made for it, and in the Civilian, it was a little bit loose, and I had to tighten down the holster body to provide a little bit more of a friction fit, but it was serviceable. But I do need to talk about what it's like to shoot this gun, because everybody who's shot it has said the exact same thing about it, and this is the one major bright point where I'm going to eagerly await for the revision to this gun to come out, and I'm going to throw more money at Rock Island when I buy that one. Assuming they fix all the issues with this gun is as smooth shooting a gun as you can find. Like, it stands up to like Shadow 2s and Legions with how smooth it shoots. The recoil impulse is super, super smooth. It doesn't lift a lot because it has a very low bore axis. Because the ergonomics are so squared away and they did such a good job on the shape of the frame, it returns to zero like a champion. I wish that it had more grip traction, but again, just the geometry of the grip is so good that it's still pretty exciting. And I tried it with a bunch of flashlights on it. I tried it with some Streamlights. I tried it with an O-Light. Both of those fit onto the gun, so it fits all the accessories just like you'd want it to. And shooting this gun with 147 grain ammunition loaded for like USPSA minor power factor is absolutely stellar. This gun was like a 22. It was just absolutely beautiful with the 147 grain. My buddy who was shooting a Q5 match steel frame shot this gun with his match load and thought it was amazing. He was very impressed with how the gun shot. I can't overstate how well this gun shoots if you feed it the ammunition it likes, if you only use Vortex optics, and you use some kind of grip enhancer because the texture on the grip sucks. As far as reliability is concerned, and in this day and age of super high ammo costs, there was some reliability hiccups. I only was able to shoot about 400 rounds through the thing, and I had 2 failures to extract. And in both cases, the case was left in the chamber and the extractor skipped off the case rim. The slide went to the rear, came back in and jammed. So that happened twice. Maybe it's a break-in thing. Maybe it's a problem with the extractor. I don't know. The other issue that I had with it, and this is fairly minor, but that uses a stainless steel guide rod that is a captured recoil spring. And this little hex bolt at the end of the guide rod, which retains the spring, started walking out as I continued to shoot it. So just put some Loctite on that bad boy and you should be in good shape. So the gun is absolutely brilliant if you work within its little stated parameters. Like they were this close to having an absolutely brilliant gun that I would be very excited about. Like when I first felt this gun and saw how it presented with its index, I was like, I'm gonna carry this gun. I love the weight of it. I love everything about this gun, until I got real honest and serious about looking at how it printed groups and all the other stuff. They nearly had it. They could have been somebody, but they fell just short. So it's a rare day when the sequel to a movie is better than the original, but I have every confidence that Rock Island can capitalize on all of this constructive criticism I've just provided and give me the gun that I desperately want, which is a metal framed Glock that has good grip and a 1 in 10 barrel twist and maybe a better optics cut. I'll live with a Vortex if that's all you can do for me, but it'd be awesome to give us something like an RMR or a Delta Point. Those cuts are generally more universal and not just a Vortex one. So I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this. If you've had a chance to shoot it, be sure and sound off in the comments so other people can benefit from your experience with the pistol. I appreciate you guys, and if you made it this far, you probably like Glocks. So here's a video on how to not shoot Glocks left. And this video, YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. Appreciate you guys. Catch you on the next one.